let's look at VPC and Ec2 Security. Now, when it comes to security for your VPC, you have something known as network access control lists. So these are lists that can be used to protect the traffic that flows into and out of subnets hosted in a VPC. So this gives you an extra layer of security at the subnet or at the network level. So let's say you have a VPC. Let's say in this VPC you have a subnet and you have a set of EC2 instances. So if you want to control or decide what traffic can flow out of the subnet, and if you want to decide what traffic can flow into the subnet, then you would use network access control lists. Since these lists are being used at the subnet level, it would apply to all the EC2 instances in that particular subnet. Now, when it comes to network access control lists, you have both inbound and outbound rules that can be defined. So each rule can decide which protocol, port range, and source to allow or deny traffic. Now next we have security groups. Now security groups are associated with the network interfaces that are attached to an EC2 instance. So again, the security group can decide what traffic can flow in and out of an EC2 instance. So just like network ACLs, there are inbound and outbound rules that can be defined with security groups. So remember that security groups are used at an instance level to protect the traffic, and network ACLs are used at the subnet level. Again, each rule can decide which is the protocol, port range, and source to be used. Now let's go on to AWS. Let me just quickly show you where you can see the network ACLs and the security groups. So here we are in the AWS Management Console. Now, since the network ACLs are at the subnet level, we have to go on to the VPC. So we can go on and find the VPC service, that's a virtual private cloud service. So here we are going to the VPC dashboard in the Ohio region. Now in the dashboard itself, you see this option of network ACL. So let's go on to it. And in the network ACL, you can see that it is associated with 3 subnets. So the subnets, the default subnets, which come along with this VPC, have been linked to this network ACL. Now in the network ACL, you have the inbound and the outbound rules. So if you go on to the rules, you can see that for each rule, you have a rule number, the type of traffic, the protocol, the port range, the source, and what is the action, whether to allow or deny traffic. Now by default, the default rules in the default network ACL, which comes along with your account, will allow traffic from anywhere to flow into your subnet, and that's applicable by the first rule. So in case if you want to change the rules, you can. Similarly, for the outbound rules, again this decides on what is the type of traffic that you want to flow out of your subnet. Again, by default, all traffic is allowed to flow out of your subnet. So this is at the subnet level, the network ACLs. Now if you go on to the AWS console, so we want to now see security groups. So security groups are at the EC2 level, the instance level. So I have one instance which is in the stop state, so it's not running, but we have a separate section that has security groups. So again, this security group is attached to the network interface that's attached to that EC2 instance. Now this is the default security group which is in place in the VPC. So a security group can be linked to a number of network interfaces that are attached to an EC2 instance. Now again, for security groups, you have the inbound and the outbound rules. And for the inbound rules, again, you have the type of traffic, the protocol, the port range, and the source. Now, by default, all traffic that flows into an EC2 instance via the security group is denied. It's not allowed. You have to explicitly ensure that you allow traffic into your EC2 instance. So let's say you have a web server running on port 80 on this instance. If you want users on the internet to access the web server on port 80, you have to make sure that you edit the inbound rule. Click on add a rule. Here you have already custom defined rules in place. So you could choose HTTP that allows traffic on port 80 from anywhere. So 0.0.0.0/0 means that you're allowing traffic from any IP address. And then you can click on save. So this now will ensure that traffic will flow into your EC2 instance via the inbound rules. Right, so these are the security options that are available for your subnets and your instance in a VPC.
For more details, check the link in the description. Learn with Whizlabs. Success certified.